Once I see the preview, then I'll go live on Insta. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Hannah. How are you?
We are live. I am wonderful. How are you? Happy World Kombucha Day 2024.
Yes, happy World Kombucha Day. February 21st, one of my favorite days of the year.
Mine as well, for obvious reasons. But you have such a unique story on how you came to kombucha. Will you share a little bit of your early beginnings?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Brew Doctor was a pretty early, in terms of this, in terms of this latest round of kind of commercialization of kombucha. I think Brew Doctor was one of the earlier players. I'm sure certainly our friend George Thomas Dave had the early adopter decade there. But I was a tea enthusiast. Kind of hit me in high school and then through college. Wasn't a big coffee drinker, but the studying late nights and getting caffeinated was a journey, I suppose. And when I was my senior year in college, I wrote a business plan that like tea was this opportunity, right, for an entrepreneur. This was kind of this underserved niche audience of tea drinkers who wanted just more exploration and to know what was out there and what all tea could be. And so I started my little tea house in Northeast Portland, originally in 2003, just 1 year after graduating from the University of Oregon. I'm an Oregon kid. And it took a while. It took 5 years of, we were open 13 hours a day, 7 days a week, and finally afford one employee and then two employees and stopped just paying myself in tips and that kind of thing. So definitely put in the really lean years in my early 20s and into my mid to late 20s.
Well, that sounds like it's the right time to start the business because that's when you have the energy. But I think to all aspiring entrepreneurs out there, don't forget that while Brew Doctor is a national kombucha brand, we all have our humble beginnings putting in a lot of long hours. So that's a really great reminder.
I was fortunate to work at something I loved, right? Like the tea house was just this fun little lab, right? We started with like 50 teas and very quickly grew to 100 and then 150, and we're toying with all the bubble tea and chai recipes and herbal concoctions, and in 2008, right, I had finally opened my second tea house after 5+ years, and somebody brought in kombucha, or one of my regulars was bringing in I think GT's original or something like that, and I was like, so what is that? And they're like, it's tea but it's fermented, and I had a sip, they gave me a sip, and I was like, whoa. GT's original is a tough entry to the palate because I wasn't into like drinking vinegars, or I hadn't tasted that really acidic kombucha fermentation before. So I was like, people want this, couldn't believe it. But then one of my tea tenders, that's what we called ourselves, tea tenders, right? I was like, oh, I make kombucha at home, and it can taste like kind of whatever you make it with, right? And so we kind of went through our tea menu and picked out, what we thought sounded good. And like our Clear Mind kombucha was literally one of the first kombuchas we made in the kitchen of the tea house in Northeast Portland in 2008. And I thought it looked good because it had mint and rosemary and sage. And sure enough, it was this really unique, kind of herbal, minty but savory kombucha that it turned into. And then, we tinkered with, a rose petal white tea and our dried fruit teas that became superberry, and on from there, and we, the kitchen started filling up with more and more jars of kombucha because everybody was loving it. And I was like, oh man, we're going to be out of room here. And so I rented out the basement of the Alberta Street Tea House, which was about, 800 square feet or something, right? And got a table and put a bunch of jars on it, another table. And then we started getting racks and moving into food grade, like 5-gallon containers, and very quickly like filled it up, right? And it was, the Oregon Department of Agriculture really helped us like learn how to make a sanitary space out of a basement of a tea house.
That's great. And I mean, you're describing what I think a lot of people, whether they homebrew or not, is the experience of it just mushrooming into your life. So whether you can't buy enough of it, or you can't make enough of it. It's a very common occurrence with kombucha. But I love that even though it wasn't exactly the flavor profile that resonated with you, that you followed it, that you're like, hey, let's give it a try. And I have to say that what's unique about Brew Doctor are those lighter flavor profiles and all of the beautiful herbs that you showcase in your products. So I think of Brew Doctor as an easy drinking kombucha, as one that, like, anyone who's new to the category, try a Brew Doctor. Yeah. And it's going to be a great product to enjoy when you want something that's really refreshing, that's delicious. So I love your products. And which is the top seller of your current flavors right now?
As much innovation and things as we've launched over the years, Clear Mind has held strong. I think there's just something about that herbal flavor that it has, and kind of this, aspirational name, right? We all want an uplift, a clear mind, mental clarity, combined with just like a refreshing look in light blue. But that's kind of the one that people eventually get to as their daily drinker, whereas they might come into it, from Island Mango or, crisp apple or something a little more like, oh, this looks yummy.
Right.
They eventually try Clear Mind and like, whoa, oh, I want this one again and again. Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting you say that about us being an easy drinking kombucha. I think that was the feedback we kind of always got, and I always put it up to the fact that we were a tea company first, so we kind of crafted these tea blends to taste good on their own, and then we ferment those into kombucha, and yeah, luckily it's scaled, from 5 gallons up to everything we do at our large brewery now, right here in Portland.
Yeah, absolutely. So were you intending to be a national kombucha brand? Was it just there reached a tipping point and it seemed like a good idea? What inspired you to go beyond Oregon with Brew Doctor?
Well, I mean, I was a tea entrepreneur, right? I went to business school. I was always a creative kid. In high school, my favorite class every semester was pottery, right? And for a while, I made our cups and our plates and our bowls for the tea houses, but I had to give that up really quickly because didn't have time. But I felt like the tea houses and the creativity you could do in blending a tea was kind of an outlet for me. Create the space to enjoy the tea and create the liquid. There's so much you can do with tea as your blank slate. So I was a tea enthusiast, business student, and I wanted to run my own, grow my own business and invite people into it, to good people to help me grow it, and that's what we've done over the years, and it's been cool. We went the B Corp route to get certified as a B Corp in 2018, which I think we were the largest B Corp in the Portland area at that time, and then since then it's continued to grow, and now you have very large companies putting their money and effort where their mouth is and getting certified, and so it's been cool to be part of that movement as well. It's very Oregonian, right? We were the first ones to recycle bottles and cans back in the 80s, that kind of thing. Composting SCOBYs in the backyard of the tea house back in the day, stuff like that.
Exactly right. And I love that the B Corp angle. As someone who considers herself a lifelong, I started environmental club in high school in 92 or 91. I've always been passionate about people and planet as well as profit. So I love that the B Corp encompasses that energy as well. And I also love that your product is available everywhere for folks who want to have it. And so it's wonderful that you can support a product that not only has values, but also implements them in their workplace as well. So I really love that. And I think we've seen a couple other kombucha brands go that route as well. But backing up a little bit in history, in 2014, Brew Doctor was also one of the founding members of KBI, is a founding member, has been a member the entire decade. Yeah,
10
KBI
years.
strong. And what inspired you? Was this something like, in business school, of course you're going to join the trade association, or was it a desire to connect with the broader community? What kind of inspired Brew Doctor to join us from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know. I was just a kid growing a business, right? So just trying to learn everything, and I learned a lot of things that somebody could have told me. Spent a lot of time and energy inventing a lot of perfectly good wheels. It obviously felt natural to join the trade association, where you get to meet not only kind of like the founder of the industry in GT, and you had him speak very early on, and that was just kind of, put a person with the brand, and the story was cool. And then to meet all the people across the country that were kind of going up against the same challenges we were, and it was just weird. Like, how are you dealing with this? How are you dealing with that? All the different things from, what's the right fermentation size, to how long do you ferment, to do you like to add, herbs or juices before fermentation or after fermentation? And, I mean, all the things that you can collaborate on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, part of why KBI founded, as we all know, is there was an alcohol issue in 2010, and we have addressed it on many fronts. And I love that, was it 2016, 2017?
16, probably.
16, right. Yeah. That you and Aquavite came and talked about this other technique that is used in different industries that really created a very compliant product for BrewDoctor. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, in 2010, we all, had to. I mean, Whole Foods was like the retailer for kombucha, right? It was just starting to get into conventional grocery, and there was, I think it started in Maine or something like that, or somewhere out in the Northeast, where anyway there was that recall. It was Whole Foods driven. They were like, whoa, there's alcohol in kombucha, and so all the suppliers, from GT on down, had to step back, figure out how to keep their product compliant and run it through the lab that Whole Foods had chosen, the third-party lab that would be sharing the results with Whole Foods. And that was when we tried everything, and Aquavite was trying some things with Cornell University's labs, on the microbiological side, and weren't really seeing anything that could keep it under 0.5. That's very low threshold, right, for yeast to not turn sugar into alcohol.
It's an artificially created threshold at the end of Prohibition, right? So the Christian temperance movement changed our constitution and said no alcohol whatsoever, and they made this really restrictive level that we don't see in our cultural counterparts, which is part of the Kombucha Act. And I'm not going to get into all of that here, but right,
as a business person, I wanted to grow a company that couldn't get dismantled by the government.
So exactly right.
So I we searched around and found this spinning cone column, which is essentially vacuum distillation, without heat. It uses the removal of atmospheric pressure and some centrifugal force to separate the ethanol from the rest of the liquid without ever getting it even above 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So there's no risk of pasteurization. It still comes through live and active, grows a SCOBY, has the culture counts that it does previous to when you put it through the column. And we show, for a while we were like, whoa, this is special. Should we tell anybody? And for a couple of years we didn't. And then, it became really apparent to me that a lot of brands were still having problems.
Yes.
And that could continue to become a problem for the industry. So, I wanted to share a solution because it totally works, right? You let your kombucha ferment to whatever alcohol content. You put it through the spinning cone column, and you can drive it all the way down to 0.1% alcohol, without really affecting the aroma or the flavor. You lose that alcohol taste, right? So maybe that's why people say ours is easier drinking, because we really do eliminate the ethanol.
What I love about that. Oh, sorry. All I was going to say is just, I love you being a leader and trying to find innovative solutions, and then ultimately realizing, hey, the best way to be a leader is just to help other people see that there is another way to do this. Because you're right, from a microbiological perspective, it's been a lot more challenging to find those solutions. I think some brands have dialed it in a little bit more, but again, this is after decades of trying to figure it out. And not everyone had decades of time to give their products. And so I really appreciate you being transparent and bringing that to folks and really shifting some thought processes. Because some folks would say, well, does anything get lost in that translation? And I would say, again, there's a kombucha for everyone. And when I drink BrewDoctor, I get a little kombucha buzz, even without that ethanol, because a lot of times, as people don't realize, that buzz is coming from the B vitamins, which are there in that living form. And so I think that's a testament to the fact that BrewDoctor still imparts a wonderful benefit. as a kombucha. I mean, it's like I said, it's an easy, approachable kombucha. It's great to drink every day. It's something that you have peace of mind. You know there isn't going to be an issue with the alcohol, and I think that gives a lot of folks that allows them to share it with their kids or bring it to work or drink it before driving without worrying about any kind of untoward experiences. Not that we see those happening with other kombuchas, but it just creates that extra layer of
hey, if you're on empty stomach and you make a strong kombucha at home and you drink a bunch of it and then get behind the wheel, you might feel like that was a bad idea. So, I would say that our kombucha, we just didn't want to have to change it microbiologically, right? We wanted to make our kombucha, ferment it the way people had loved it, and then remove the alcohol. And this is the way that people can do that. Obviously it takes scale and capability. Right. So we don't pretend that everybody can do it, but we want people to know that Brew Doctor can do it, and we do. And that's one of the difference makers for our product. But I would say to people, it's the same kombucha you make at home. Mm-hmm. Just put through a little machine that takes the ethanol away.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a machine, like I said, that's used in other industries. Wine and other industries use it because they also have alcohol limits as much as it's an alcoholic beverage, and they have to make sure that they're within their certain levels for
the reason the wine industries use it is because it is so delicate. It doesn't impact the flavor and the aroma of the wine while pulling their alcohol content into compliance. Yeah.
And as we know, a brand is going to go through a variety of iterations. And recently, Brew Doctor has introduced a really cute mascot. Tell us a little bit about your sloth and how.
Otis the sloth has been our mascot since the tea days, right?
Okay. I mean, for some reason, I missed him. He must not have been as present on the marketing as he is now.
Well, he was always hidden, right? So, if you came to our tea house, he was right out front we had an animal tea party sign, right? Where it was like a giraffe, a cat, and a sloth having tea together. And then little, Alberta Street tea house. And sloth was to me, was the perfect mascot for tea because it takes time, right? People would come in and expect their espresso drink. And I'm like, okay, you ordered a chai. We make it from scratch. It'll be 8 minutes,
Right, so
be a sloth, be content and wait. And we've created this lovely space for you to wait for your tea. And anyway, when we first started bottling our kombucha, we would print our own labels, and that was ridiculous, of course. And then we could finally afford 1,000 at a time, right? Which is just funny to me. But we went to the local label company, and we're like, okay, we'd love it to be this size. These are the dimensions. And he was like, okay, well, to create that custom size, it'll be an extra $4,000. I was like, whoa, I didn't know that was a thing. And so he said, well, we have a size that we already have made that's just about the same height, but it's a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch wider. So there would be an overlap on your bottle. And I was like, oh, I don't care if there's an overlap. I'm putting these on by hand anyway. And I thought, hey, we could put something under there as like an Easter egg, right? So had the thought to put Otis, our sloth, under there with little sayings, I was cuddling your thumb that whole time. Or, I enjoyed watching you drink that. Or let's go camping. And so every once in a while, somebody would actually, just be like, whatever, you peel your labels sometimes, and they would discover the sloth under there. And it was this kind of fun moment of discovery. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, we stopped overlapping our labels finally, and we moved them to underneath the cap. So any of our bottles, if you open it up, let's see if I've got one in here. I'm sure I do. I always keep them around. Anyway, if you open your cap, he's under there, the same sloth head that we've always had, and he's saying, little sayings, or there's an emoji.
Fun stuff. Yeah, I mean, Snapple did it, and of course, I don't know if you drank Red Dog beer back in the 90s, but they had them on there as well. So you're in a history tradition of surprising people.
It's fun. And now Otis is on the side of the package as well, kind of hanging out and saying things. So kind of bringing him in, he's a tea mascot.
He's really fun. Okay, so you mentioned Clear Mind is the most popular by sales, but tell me your kombucha crush. Which flavor do you always go to? Oh, there he is.
My kombucha crush
for yourself. Yeah.
Right now it's our Orange Oasis. Again, tea drinker at heart, and that's an Earl Grey tea. I've always loved Earl Grey, and we always tinker. We made an Earl Grey latte, kind of a London fog thing back at the tea house, and so we finally, found a good recipe with some blood orange and another citrus combined with an Earl Grey brew. of tea to make great, super delicious orange flavored kombucha that has that velvety black tea Earl Grey like mouthfeel, but you get a lot of orange and citrus from it. So
I love that. Yeah, that bergamot in the Earl Grey makes it super delicious. Well, it has been so fun sharing World Kombucha Day with you. Any last word? Where can people find Brew Doctor? Do you ship it? I know we're giving away 3 cases, so 3 months supply of Brew Doctor.
Yeah.
So we got some lucky winners we're going to be picking tomorrow. Very excited for that prize. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, again, we've been at this since 2008. So by now we should be in every grocery store. So go to the grocery store, look for Brew Doctor in a brown bottle. And then we also, are available in 4 packs of cans. So, everywhere from Whole Foods to Kroger, even Walmart, some of them have it. So yeah, we'll keep trying to get it everywhere. That's my goal. Get it everywhere liquid is sold.
And is it brewdoctor.com, Brew Doctor Kombucha? How do people find you online or on social?
Yeah, let's see. I think the social handle is at BrewDoctor, and then brewdoctorkombucha.com is the website.
Thank you so much, Matt. Yes, you've made it super easy. Easy to drink, easy to find. It's everywhere. So thank you so much for taking the time today. We really appreciate you, and have a wonderful World Kombucha Day.
Appreciate you too, Hannah. You as well.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Woo! The interviews are rolling. We're having so much fun. In just a few minutes, we're going to welcome up Zoe Shamai from Tonica Kombucha based in Canada. What I really love about today, first of all, it is not our first World Kombucha Day. So let me share a little bit of the history of how Kombucha Day came into being. In fact, it was invented by Alex Kombucha, my husband, Alex Ligori. We wrote our book, The Big Book of Kombucha. A lot of you probably know it, have checked it out from the library. They often refer to it as the Bible of kombucha. Of course, we're super grateful for that because I think it just is a testament to all of the love, the decades worth of information we poured into it. And our book anniversary is International Women's Day, which I feel is very appropriate because I think of kombucha as a mother culture. We call it a kombucha mother. And of course, we all have divine feminine energy. So she really resonates with that aspect of ourselves and of the world. And so he also conceived of the idea of World Kombucha Day to help with the book launch. But at the time, we're still very small. We're still a small business. And we just didn't have the ability to move it forward then. So what we did is in 2020, we finally launched World Kombucha Day through Kombucha Brewers International. And so we just love to see how much it has grown, how much it has evolved in just 4 short years, and how many more people are finding kombucha, discovering kombucha, brewing kombucha, making kombucha, sharing it with the masses, right? So if you're looking to take your side hustle into a career, Kombucha Camp, we offer wholesale culture. Again, we love supplying brands. We love that our culture makes it around everywhere. We also offer consultation services. And of course, you should definitely join Kombucha Brewers International. So Alex and I co-founded that in 2014. As we just discussed with Matt, that was due to the crisis in the industry. We wanted to bring everybody together and figure out if we could solve this problem from a bigger level. And the reality is it's one of education. That is the vast majority of what we've done at KBI. And then we've also enshrined fermentation as a vital step of the kombucha brewing process through the Kombucha Code of Practice. So I'm really excited to welcome up Zoe. She is a pioneer in her own right, one of the earliest brands in Canada. And I can't wait for you to meet her and to hear her story. So I'll go ahead and bring her on now. Zoe,
hello. Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Great. It's so great to have you here. Happy World Kombucha Day.
Thank you. Happy World Kombucha Day to you. Thank you for creating a kombucha day that we can celebrate the magic of our wonderful brew.
Yes, it's just exciting to see it has a life of its own. And of course, it's folks like you who were early to kombucha. So tell us your kombucha origin story. Not that you haven't ever told it before, but we would love to hear.
Sure. I would love to share. And since we're on camera too, I thought I could also just visually share if that's an option.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. So I'm here at our facility and I want to show you guys that I'm going to give you a sneak peek. We're actually sort of done for the day, but I'm going to show you that currently we have our own bottling line where we do thousands of cases a day. But I started it, which I'll get into in a sec, out of my kitchen almost 20 years ago. So Hannah, you and I met way back in the day. This is our conference room. And this was when I first started it, it was called the Fairies Tonic. And when I started it, I was a yoga teacher. I was living in New Mexico. I, of course, drank Synergy back as the only kombucha on the shelf. And I fell in love with the digestive benefits that I got almost immediately after drinking it. I was a yogi. I was very healthy. I had never had that. Anyway, we all know kombucha, so I don't have to go into that. But basically, here we are in our micro lab, and this is how I started over 20 years ago in my apartment. And so to this day,
look at your beautiful Bucci babies.
I know, aren't they nice? These ones are freshly made. I think these guys have been around. So this is, we brew here in our micro lab, and then after 45 to 60 days, depending on the season, we bring them into our bigger labs where we ferment and grow before flavoring and carbonating and getting out across Canada.
Well, I love that because it's like your seeds are that original counterculture size, right? And you use the culture created out of that to then, create massive amounts of kombucha. It's pretty awesome and very inspiring.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Well, the market has changed so much, and since we started, it's an incredible thing. Canada obviously is a much smaller market than the US. And, I think in Europe, it's even smaller because it's a localized. But here now, if you walk into any of the major retailers across Canada, you're going to see at least 4 of our brands everywhere, like in stores that you would never find kombucha at before. So it's amazing.
That is amazing. And I love to see how much it has grown. And I know it's a testament to quality products like yours, to our efforts at KBI, to Kombucha Camp, right? We're all in this giant SCOBY together, pushing forward. And then, of course, it's perfectly timed with the information about gut health, because I know you're someone who really cares about health. As you've already said, that's your background. And in fact, I think you also, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do retreats and different things.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
you're attending them. I don't know if you're leading them, but you're definitely someone who's passionate about health. And so, how are people responding to kombucha in Canada? It's cold this time of year. Do they want to drink a cold beverage? Honestly, they drink soda year round, so I don't even know what the complaint is, but what is your experience?
It's definitely a different market than California, although obviously you're getting a lot of rains right there now. Hopefully you're okay. But yeah, you can see kind of outside, frosted to the outside window. It's gray, it's cold. We're lucky enough, because I started the brand so many years ago, that we really have a very strong and established customer base. So cold or not, they're getting those digestive benefits and that boost. And one of the things with Tonica is that our flavor profile is super smooth. So it's not going to be one of the crazy stronger flavors. So we do have a really large audience who just, as a substitute, if they're not drinking water, they're drinking Tonica. And then recently we launched our low sugar cans.
Cute.
I know.
And so what is your footprint in Canada? Are
Picture
you, because I know you're
there.
based in Toronto, but are you in all of Canada? Can people
we're across Canada. We're basically from the Atlantic coast to the western coast. I'll be heading out to Vancouver in a couple of weeks to do some store meetings out there. And I don't know if I can flip my camera. Can I?
What it does. I don't try it.
I don't see a flip button.
Oh.
So that's okay. I'll see. Hopefully you'll see this. But basically, we started out with our classic line here. Beautiful. And we then launched into cans. And before that, we also got into private label. So there's a number of private label brands that we do as well. And yeah, it's amazing. It's kombucha has brought me a beautiful life, and I have this incredible team here. They just all left for the day, but some of them have been with me for 12 years, like since I did the Dragon's Den, which is basically a lifetime.
Well, tell us about Dragon's Den. That must have been an intense experience. I know I've seen the episode.
Oh yeah,
the clips online, but
well, so Dragon's Den is like Shark Tank in the US, and some of the original dragons started Shark Tank, and it was a great experience. So that was in 2012, to give you an idea. And at that time, I had just rebranded from my old company name, the Fairy Tonic, to Tonica. And it was basically, I really did want, at that time, I wanted partners. I wanted support. And so I went on hoping for not just financial, but I did want financial help.
Sure.
But it was also just like knowledge of the industry and resources. But when I went on, I also thought, you know, it's 50-50. It's live. You have to sign like a defamation thing. So if it didn't go well and it aired and they didn't give me a deal, what was my goal? So I thought, well, ultimately the goal is to be a knowledge bringer and do a commercial to all the people across Canada about how good, well, actually in that time it was, what is kombucha and why is it so good for you? So my whole pitch, the premise was like talking about the benefits. At one point, Arlene Dickinson, one of the dragons, cut me off and she's like, okay, enough about the benefits of the product. Let's talk about the business. So it was a great show and they did offer me the deal in the end. I didn't end up taking it. And so to this day, we are the only, our Tonica is the only independently owned company, independently owned by me, and the only women-owned brand in the top 5 brands in Canada, which include GTs and Remedy. And so I'm very proud of us, and I'm very happy to Kombucha for, you know, bringing so much prosperity and abundance into my life. But I really feel like it's because it's an authentic product and it brings it's so delicious. It's so healthy and it's a living culture that is not available. Like what it brings to grocery shelves, that sparkle, that life, it's very unique. So I think we're doing good things, so good things happen.
1,000%. I always say that when you brew kombucha, it's like witnessing abundance in action because it replicates and you just end up with so many kombucha cultures. The other thing I like to say is if you give an organism what it needs to thrive, it will. And that translates to us humans and the planet and everything as well.
Absolutely.
Now, you're also a founding member of KBI, Kombucha Brewers International.
Yes.
Tell me what inspired you to join. I'm going to step away and let the dog in, but I can still hear you.
Okay.
So tell us about KBI, why you decided to join.
When you created KBI, it was such an incredible thing because up until then, there had really been no community, really. And there was certainly no existing foundation or resource or even mentors in the industry to talk to. Everyone, like there weren't a lot of brewers, but everyone was pretty much head down trying to figure out how to scale their business and how to get customers in a world that was very much focused and, you know, cheap production of sugary artificial products. So I was so happy when I found out about Kombucha Brewers International. And so, yeah, it was like, obviously I'm going to join because we're a unique band of kombucha makers. And that was many years ago now. And I think I still remember, was I at your first,
yes, you were at the first conference in 2014. Yeah. You're a founding member and have been a member ever since. So
that's right.
Yes, we appreciate your 10 years of patronage at KBI. And of course, we've seen you at KombuchaCon a couple times. It's not always easy to get down to California from Toronto, but appreciate when you make the effort and always love seeing you in person as well. Now I need to ask you, what is your kombucha crush? Which of your flavors, don't tell the others, is the one that you will always want to go to? Like if you had no other choice, if you could only make one flavor, which one would it be?
Of my own flavors?
Yes.
Oh, only one. I think it would be, it's not even here. There's 2. One is, actually, here's a big bottle.
You can't have just one.
Yeah, it's short. One is my Grapefruit Glow. So this one is, yeah, it's
I
delicious.
love grapefruit and kombucha. It's so good.
Where'd it go?
Oh.
Okay, so it's my grapefruit, and then my second one, you see it up there. It's the lemonade.
It's like
lemonade
spirulina.
twist. Yeah, so we use exactly spirulina, a blue-green algae, and then it's a lemonade flavor, and it's really good.
That looks so delicious. That looks really refreshing post-workout on a hot summer day.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that looks terrific. It's hard to have just one crush, right?
It is, especially because we do so many. Like, this is one of my newer ones, is this one. It's the pineapple sparkle. And so in this we use, I can't tell if you can see the color or not. It's a beautiful.
It's the pea flower, right? The butterfly pea flower.
Exactly.
Yes, it's so pretty. It turns purple in acid and blue in alkaline. And so in kombucha, we always get the purple side of the butterfly pea flower.
Yeah, it's so great.
So delicate. And then what's on so I love that you also co-manufacture, because I think learning how to brew kombucha is such a challenge, putting all the equipment in place, training the staff, and it just makes sense that once you have this skill, you're then able to support other brands, whether it's private label or other brands out there on the store shelves. Are there other ways in which you've helped your business? So for example, some folks line extension into water kefir or cocoa, or what other ways have you kept everyone busy at Tonica?
Well, it's funny because my mom was a health entrepreneur, is a health entrepreneur as well. And so she had Roots Hemp Foods, and there's, it was actually in the States as well, everywhere. But she was constantly doing line extensions. So she would do hemp salad dressings, hemp tortilla chips, hemp granola bars, hemp oil, obviously that one. And then it just kept going, and then it went into chia. And I remember early on being at an Anaheim at her booth at CHFA or Expo West, right?
Expo West, yeah.
And one of her brokers being like, your mom's biggest, like, it's the best thing and the worst thing is that she's constantly expanding and doing innovation.
Right.
And it takes so much energy to launch new products. And I always remembered that. And I'm not a lazy person, but I definitely like to create systems and streamline so I can have a personal life and enjoy, other things beyond just the business. So for me, that was one of the biggest things I took. So really, we don't do anything but kombucha.
I love that. Yeah.
And I know at home, I love sauerkraut and water kefir and yogurt, but I for myself, I find the water kefir, it's difficult. It comes and goes. I see in the market. I think it's hard for that extra spend when people don't necessarily taste the fermentation.
It can be really subtle.
It can be really subtle. So it's not that I don't like other things. I like a lot of things, but in terms of creating a business and a lifestyle, we stick to, at this time at least, kombucha only. We do obviously glass cans, different size glass. We do kegs. We do DIY kits. I think we're one of the only commercial brands that sells our own SCOBY. So we do have DIY kits. But for now, that's it. I would like to speak more. I've been speaking for some of our retailers to large presentations just about daily yoga and mindfulness, like in the other room in our conference room. I don't know if you saw, we have like beanbag chairs. And so I like to start off our weekly meetings with about 15 minutes of just mindfulness, focusing on the breath, because everybody has so much going on in their lives. And then they come to work and they have so much on their plates here. And so it's so wonderful to have a space and just a habit of teaching this technique to take 5, separate yourself from your desk, from other people. They can go in there and breathe and just get grounded.
And I love that. And I like your focus, because then you don't suffer from shiny object syndrome. Guilty as charged. I'm
only when I'm shopping.
Way too much.
You are,
but no, it's good. And then I love that you're able to give back to the people who work for you. That's an amazing perk, because there's so much going on in the world that's really stress causing. And so to be able to come in knowing you're going to get a chance to just settle and chill, even if you don't want to, because sometimes
Yeah,
you don't
even
want
if
to.
you don't want to. Yeah, there's a
But
lot of resistance, and then by the end, people are like, "Thank you."
I feel so much better because, as I say, kombucha is a portal, right? She's not an end, like you drink kombucha and you're done. Now you're healthy forever. It's a gateway into all these other modalities. So whether that's different fermented foods and drinks, like you talked about, or it's consciousness or it's lifestyle. And again, we're downloading all this great DNA wisdom from these microbes, from what they're bringing us, the metabolites and everything. And, we're bacterio sapiens, we're bacteria run beings. And that's what I love about living in this day and age is all of the research that's validating what our ancestors already knew. And so it's really fantastic that we get to live in this moment and create these amazing beverages that uplift people in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
Well, how can people find you, Zoe, if they want to find Tonica Kombucha? Is there a website? Do you ship?
So we're distributed across Canada right now. And if you're in the GTA, if you're in Toronto, we do some home deliveries, but we try to support our retail partners. So for the most part, just find us at anywhere from Metro to Farm Boy, Shoppers Drug Mart, Loblaws, Fortinos, and a lot of the beautiful smaller health shops in your local area. Out west, we're in Choices, Whole Foods, IGA Marketplace, and then on Instagram we're just Tonica Kombucha, and I have a different page for me, Zoe Tonica, and we have fun sharing behind the scenes and random experiences.
People love that. They love this stuff. They like to peek under the hood these days. And you're such an inspirational entrepreneur. I'm sure a lot of people want to.
Thanks,
and
Hannah.
How cool that you're following in your mother's footsteps, obviously in a different angle, but same field. And
absolutely.
And you'll be inspiring other women, other men who want to go into this field and get really healthy and also follow their passion.
And I think it's really important. Like, it's hard to have a lot of sharing when you're working, at your business, but to share the wins and the losses or the downtimes, because really in this Instagram world, like, it's really hard to separate and not compare. And it's really detrimental because everyone has challenges. And sometimes, we're just deluded. You look online, you see all the highlights, and it feels like best life ever is happening everywhere. And there's always challenges. So as an entrepreneur, as a business person, as a successful person, to share also, like, hey, life isn't perfect. There's a lot of challenges in business. Obviously, we don't share a lot on Instagram, but just wanted to say for everyone watching and listening, like, just remember, it's like that old saying that I think Oprah then made even bigger, which is like, just win your own race. Don't compare yourself. Don't compare where you are maybe at the beginning of your journey to someone else's journey, because each of us is here to have this experience and do what we do best, which is unique to each of us. So to look and compare is only going to bring you down. And when you're down, you're not motivated and you can't really shine. So it's like, you're going to have challenges. You're going to have your down days. You're not going to go out and do sales on those days. You're going to take care of yourself. And then when you're feeling amazing, get back out there and go after what only you can do.
Well, and I love you bringing this point up, because I think, sometimes we see in a young industry like kombucha that head down, a little more competitive. But the reality is nobody can make your kombucha. Nobody can make my kombucha. Even if you follow all the recipes I give you in the book, it's not going to taste like my kombucha, because
absolutely
where you live, like the terroir of where you're making it, combined with your energy, because again, it's a living product, so it's going to absorb those energies, means that no one's going to have the same kombucha. And I love that, because it means it's truly a craft beverage. It's an art. And yes, we use science to help support us, but really, like, nothing beats your senses. And it's hard to quantify exactly what that means. But like, you can walk into a place and smell and know what's going on. You can
and you feel it too. And in the same way that we know as kombucha brewers, each batch you make, doesn't matter, it's the exact same SCOBY, every batch comes out differently. And in the same way, we're all different. And a big part of, like, beyond everything you just said about kombucha, which is so true, that living essence and that uniqueness, and we all can only create what we create. At the same time, I feel like it's such a beautiful reflection, kombucha fairies and us, because it's basically like we're doing the same thing, and half of, well, more than half, a big part of business is, at least on the sales, is relationships. But even behind the scenes, because you have to be able to have relationships and communication with all of your staff, and you have to be able to go into stores and really relate to those buyers. And so in that same way, like we're talking, like, don't compare, because only your unique dynamic is going to resonate with certain retailers or certain people, and like that's great. That's the path. Then that's what is going on, and you're there for a reason.
Absolutely. These are inspirational words. So appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedule, Zoe, to join us.
Thanks,
Thank you so
Hannah.
much. I mean, not that you need any more last words, but was there any last like saying you'd like to share with us?
I think just like, yeah, I don't know.
Follow your
Sparkle with
fairy
life.
dreams.
Yeah. Do what makes you happy. And
Yes.
and just like, I will just say at this time, like, it does seem a lot of people I talk to are going through really hard times. There have been a lot of businesses closing down.
Yes.
A lot of people, especially in Canada, it's been a very gray winter. Like, winter is always challenging, and I like to go to Costa Rica a lot, but it's often blue skies. It's been a very gray winter. And so, like, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. But remember that there's always a new day coming. So you need to do the practices that make you feel good. It's not going to happen if you stay up, binge watching and eating crap all night long. Yeah, guess what? You're not going to wake up feeling happy. But do that for a couple nights, then get yourself back in a good space. And just remember, like, yeah, YOLO, life is short. It's very short. It's long if we're lucky. So use the days to really connect into what feels good for you. And maybe you don't know what your purpose is and you can't figure it out, but just, each day is a new opportunity to really explore what makes you happy. So,
well, maybe your purpose is just nourishing yourself, coming with a higher vibration, so that when you interact with other people, you're able to be a bright light and a smile, as opposed to a grumpy face and a bad attitude, right? Like,
beautiful.
even that alone helps.
That's
to raise,
great.
right, exactly. Helps to raise that vibration. And you're right. We're in really challenging times from a global perspective. There's a lot of division being sown with the way social media has completely transformed. You and I are of a similar generation, Zoe. So we didn't grow up with all this social media.
No, we didn't.
You went to school, you compared yourself with your friends, but you had your groups, right? Like, you had your people you hung out with, and it wasn't this constant, glued to your phone and trying to compare yourself with everybody. I mean, we did in our own ways, but it wasn't as intense, I think.
And all consuming all the time.
Yes,
I mean, I think you have to probably get onto your next interview, but I just want to say, like, I do think that's another great hack for just lifestyle every day, is to really limit the time you spend on social. So, like, for me, luckily I have a great social media team, so I'm not even really I don't run the Tonica, and I go once in a while on Zoe Tonica, because there is interaction that I like to have and people like to have, but I for sure watch the hours I spend on there. I don't keep my phone in my bedroom, and it's like, I try to be in this world in this moment, because that feels good. And when I spend too much time online, it's just, you're so disembodied. Like, it's hard to
stay grounded.
Stay grounded. Yeah.
Yeah, you get lost in this, like, you go down a rabbit hole. You're like, is this real? Is this not real? Like, there's so many questions out there. But I think what makes it what helps us get grounded really quickly is going back to our kombucha, right?
Yes,
like, just
there you go.
having a sip, cracking a brew. Oh, you suddenly are back in your body, all those great organic acids, those nutrients. You start to feel good again. It naturally lifts your mood. And it really, take a kombucha break from life. That's what I
love it. Absolutely. Cheers to that.
Cheers. Take care,
Cheers,
Zoe.
Hannah.
We love
Happy
you. Have a good
Kombucha
one.
Day. Love
Happy
you too.
Kombucha Day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh my gosh, the interviews keep a coming. Up next is Lucas Montanari from Brazil. I'm so excited to have him here. I'm going to take a quick break and we'll be back at 2 o'clock in 8 minutes. We'll see you here. Stay tuned.